Hi, and welcome everyone. Let me check here. Maybe if you could tell me if everybody can see and hear us. Let me check here. There we go. That should be better, right? So thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. Today we have a very exciting program. We're all very happy because it's sunny in Belgium. One of the first days here that we see sunshine. So we're ready to kick this off finally after a long winter, a lot of rain, finally some sun here. So today we want to talk about uniCOS and why this solution is an ideal solution for many applications. Let me see here. Everything seems to be right. All right. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's switch to the presentation here for a second. All right. Let me switch off this one. All right, let's go. So the webinar will take around 45 minutes. I think the presentation will be a little bit more than 30 minutes, and then we will switch over to a Q&A session as well. This session is being recorded, so you will also get a replay afterwards. And also we put all the webinars on our website afterwards. Okay, what will we be discussing today? So actually we'll step a little bit for those that are new to Televic, explain what is uniCOS exactly and how does it fit in our overall architecture. Besides that, we will talk about line of sight issues. So what is it exactly? What do we mean with that in conference spaces? And how can uniCOS solve these challenges with those types of rooms? And then also we will talk about how can you exactly put a uniCOS environment into hybrid meetings. So how are we doing that? And then also a couple of examples that we've seen throughout the last couple of months where it's being applied. So we see that more and more our multimedia station is being used in different applications. So we'll talk also about how it is applied by customers in flex spaces, how it's applied for travel kits, and then also a very important and hot topic that we hear all the time is also how to increase meeting equity. So how can we make sure that everybody, also persons in the room, get an equal share in the overall meeting. All right. So first of all, let's have a quick look to what exactly is uniCOS. So uniCOS is a multimedia device. It's a 10-inch touchscreen with the capability where you combine everything all in one. So you have the microphone, so you capture the voice, you have the reproduction of what's going on because you have the built-in loudspeaker. It acts as a confidence monitor, so you have the display and the capability to show different video streams as well. Besides that, it's also a solution that can be applied in architectural challenging environments. So that's those line of sight issues that we talk about. So we'll come back on that to a greater extent. And then people can view content, and this is brought front center on the display itself. It also supports more natural conversations because you have something close by. You don't have to redirect your focus all the time. So that definitely also helps in that respect. Looking to what the device consists of. So it's an all-in-one design. There's capabilities of having up to 6 full HD video streams that can be transferred to the station. It has a built-in camera. We'll talk about that a little bit further down this presentation. If need be, for certain applications where moderation is needed, chairperson and request list control is definitely also possible. Today, we focus more on the use case of hybrid meetings where the video is more front center and can be applied. And that's what we see also more requests into corporate applications as well. The screen is tiltable, so that's important not only for the viewing angle because of maybe lighting, but also for the built-in camera, so you can really position it. And when it is completely backwards, it's also quite small to pack as well. And then besides that, whenever there's a need to, applications like voting agenda, but also language distribution can be part of that whole solution as well. Also won a couple of design awards, so also in that respect, definitely a viable solution for corporate applications. And we see that it really fits in different environments. We've had here a city council that is using also the uniCOS devices in a very old architecture, and it actually is a nice blend, but we also see it in very modern applications in boardrooms, etc. It's a generation of multimedia stations. So we have both a 7 and a 10-inch flush mount series, but by far the most sold product out there is the uniCOS tabletop. So I would say 95% of what we sell is really the uniCOS tabletop application or product. Besides the delegate equipment, so the uniCOS device, we also have additional video capabilities within the ecosystem of the Plixus network. So we both have video input boxes and video output boxes. So to bring in video in our network and to extract video from our network, and we'll have a closer look on that, how that's done in a minute. There's a couple of accessories on that. So we have a vCell, which is a video selector device on the video output box. And then for the video input box, we have what we call a video request, which we will explain in just a minute. How does that fit in the overall Plixus architecture and in the Televic product line as such? So we have the multimedia stations up there on the top, where we have the tabletop, the flush mount. We do also have video-enabled interpreter equipment, and then the video encoder and decoder boxes actually as well. So this is part of the whole Plixus architecture. So it's part of a mix and match capabilities. So you can also combine the multimedia stations with other products within the Plixus range. A little bit on how this is exactly fitting in the overall network. So what you have here is the a Plixus architecture where you see all kinds of multimedia devices. From the video in perspective, so on the top right corner, there's a video input box. As soon as something is presented there, it travels over the network to the Plixus engine, and from there it's distributed to all the video-enabled endpoints, where you can also apply routing from where does that input stream exactly needs to go to. It's also low latency, so from input to output on the network, it's less than 1 video frame for Full HD. So in terms of latency, also very good. Now let's have a closer look on the video capabilities. So what is possible with all those video capabilities? So first of all, we have the capability to have a video input box with a fixed routing to a video output box. So that means in to out, like that. You can also have multiple video output boxes that you group together to have the same signal transferred to those video output boxes. A second use case is where you have several video input boxes that you combine together in what we call a presentation group. And then this is basically transferred as two streams towards a video output box. And there, if you connect the video selector, so it's a USB to the video output box, then you have the capability to select which of those two video input boxes, which stream comes out of the video output box. So there you have the capability to have that selection. So either with the video selector box, or there's also capabilities on that video output box. There's dry contact, so you can do it like that, so you can control it like that, or through API, you can also define which of the video streams, of the 6 video streams that are available on the Plixus network, that need to go to that output. All right, so that's the video out side. So now the video capabilities with the input side. There again, we can group several video input boxes together in one group, and then use the video request panels in the software. So you have a view here on the software where we create an input group where you have several video input boxes, and then you define that those need to work on the request principle. So that means, so let's go here. This is routed as one stream, so one of the 6 streams. You can have multiple inputs combined in one group, resulting in one stream that can be routed to a video output box or made available to the uniCOS devices. So that means that when the button is pressed on the first input, the source is available on the output there. If somebody presses the second video request button, then that content is shared again to that video output box. So there you have the capability, so within the same infrastructure, to also apply video sharing, so that you occupy one stream for the content, and that is being shared for people that press the video request button, get the presentation feed. All right, let's move on. Then a last application that is also applicable in the uniCOS types of solutions. So as we already mentioned, the uniCOS has integrated cameras in the stations itself. There we can again group those together in one group, which is what we call a talking head group. So you can define that group in our routing software, where you define which of those uniCOS stations need to be grouped together. And from that moment in time, it means if you again have one video stream available on the Plixus network, which is the talking head stream to an output, if somebody presses the microphone button or starts to speak, in that case, the camera gets activated from that specific station, routed over the network as one stream, and then you can make that visible to all the other participants, but also have it available to route, for instance, to a video output box. Again, here, if somebody else starts to speak, that camera is being activated and the stream is replaced by that person that sits in front of that uniCOS. So you have a last speaker always available within the network to route it to either stations or to a video output box. So how does that fit together then? So this is an example of the video routing, where you have input groups, and the input groups can be either a video input box or a group of input boxes for that presentation mode, or a group of uniCOS devices that follow the camera activity. And then you can have several output groups. The output groups mean that you send it to video output boxes or a group of output boxes. And then you apply the routing between the the input groups and the output groups. So that's the routing principle there. And then on top is what we have, the 6 video streams that are available on the Plixus network. And there you define which of those are also selectable for participants in the meeting. So in this case, it means that you would have the four streams available so that people can select it themselves. You can also define to also have only one visible, but still have the routing internally in our systems. So very powerful from that perspective. Now, let's switch a little bit to rooms with line of sight issues. Well, what is that exactly? So we've seen a lot of cases where there's actually bi-directional line of sight issues. That's how we call it. Not only from participants in the room not seeing a screen. So we've all seen like very small, long boardrooms with a screen in front of the table, and there we hear constantly also that that's an issue for all the participants that sit further back, that the screen is blocked by other participants. So really line of sight issues from participants to screen, but also vice versa, from cameras within the room to see participants. We've now more and more we see applications where there's a lot of glass. If it's an old infrastructure, you don't always have the capabilities to put cameras in an ideal spot. So it's always a compromise in terms of positioning of your cameras. And that means that taking those participants into picture is not always in the most ideal condition. So the solution there, by having, let me switch back here. That was a little bit too fast. From participant to screen, by adding a uniCOS device on the table, you have a perfect view right in front of you, so that everybody has the content or whatever that is being shared on the uniCOS device right in front of you. And then the same for camera to participant. As we have the built-in cameras, there we can create a camera shot that is front-facing on participants. What we also hear a lot is that we're now also so used to head-shoulder shots because we've been behind our computers on Teams and Zoom and other applications all the time, so that this expectation also comes when people participate from a room, that they are also brought into picture in such a way. That's a little example here. So there was a boardroom in Switzerland. As you can see, again, nice, a lot of windows, very small, narrow, long boardroom table. With a LED wall at the front and also some cameras at the front, and then some artwork on the wall. So not always easy to put cameras all over the room there. So that's actually an example of the room. So I already explained this, and then this is actually what the customer asked to, or his findings to a consultant about that room. And that's exactly illustrates the line of sight issues that we've been talking about, bi-directional. So the video counterparts are visible on the LED wall. On-site participants need to constantly turn their head, which seems to see the dial-in participants, and that is really uncomfortable, right? So there's blocking from other participants. We've all been in meeting rooms where you constantly have to turn your head to see exactly what's going on the screen. So the request there was to add additional screens in a comfortable viewing angle. Another finding was that the chairperson could also only be filmed from the side, and that had to do to restrictions of camera positions. And there the question was also to have options to film participants front-facing. So that's definitely a solution where the uniCOS has been applied. Unfortunately, we don't have the end results of this room. When we do, and we would have the agreement of the customer, we could definitely do a reference case of that and maybe even a follow-up webinar. Other room here, another example, European Court of Justice, where actually there's no screens in the room. Again, here a lot of glass, so all the video sharing and presentation is done over the Plixus network, and to the participants, everybody has a uniCOS device. So that's a very nice one as well. So that's about line of sight issues. Now, obviously, we now live in a hybrid world, so everything needs to be hybrid and capable of being hybrid. And let's have a closer look on how uniCOS can be applied in those circumstances. So first of all, we have a Plixus multimedia engine with a couple of uniCOS devices here for this example. This is again a creation of that group. So you put all those uniCOS devices in one group and then create the talking heads stream. The second thing that we do here is add in between each uniCOS device a video input box, so for presentation purposes, so people can connect their laptop and then hit the request button to get their content available on the Plixus network. So again, here the creation of that presentation group in the software. In order to go to, in this case, in this example, an MTR, we have a couple of video input and output boxes. So here we go to an MTR from the room, where first of all, we convert the video output box that is routed with the cameras from the uniCOS device. We convert this to USB and bring this into the MTR. So that's already your in-room camera system that goes to Teams in this case. The second thing we do is that we connect the video output box as the content stream, so that presentation feed that we built with those two input boxes with the video request goes to the video input from the MTR. So that means if you're in the MTR application, if you start the meeting and share within the Teams controller, that this input feed also goes to presentation. So Teams switches to presentation mode and you see what's being shared in the meeting room. And then vice versa, in this case, you just take the output of the MTR. So you have the remote participants inject this into a video input box and make that available on the uniCOS devices. So everybody can follow close by, so really in front of you, remote participants as well. So you have a bi-directional link here from the uniCOS devices, the camera towards the meeting room, and from the remote participants that is visible on the screen of the uniCOS as well. So a nicely integrated solution from that perspective. This is also a good moment to also refer to our smart audio and control functionalities. So we have done a webinar a couple of weeks ago. So this is also available on our website. What does that mean? So within smart audio and control, we apply mix minus. So the loudspeakers are always active, also if your microphone is active. But more importantly, here we also applied a hands-free mode that can be really interesting for corporate applications where people don't want to push a button. In conjunction with our speech detection, so the system really defines who is speaking and then activates that microphone. But in this case, also the camera gets active and shared into the meeting application. So from that perspective, in more automated mode where you apply gain sharing, So definitely also an interesting combination of both our video capabilities, but also now that smart audio and control and hands-free mode to combine it in a really unique meeting experience towards hybrid applications. All right, and that's then the routing. So how the routing is done to achieve this. So the presentation group is sent to a video output box. The cameras are sent to a video output box that goes into the MTR, and then vice versa. The video input is being made available as a stream on the network so that it can be visible on the uniCOS devices. So that's the video routing capabilities. So that's the COCON video routing. Do know that in Confero, all the logic is also available in the central unit. We do not have yet the capabilities to have a user interface like this, but we do have the capabilities to create a configuration file for the routing. So this can perfectly be applied if you order that service to create the video routing on Confero. So that's also definitely a capability. And obviously the next track after the audio routing, we will work on establishing a user interface, web-based, also for the video routing capabilities. So uniCOS in hybrid concept. So we already explained the boardroom with line of sight issues. So that was the case in Switzerland there. But also what we see more and more is organizations that have flexible meeting spaces. And they want to do hybrid meetings in there. So you have a constant change of number of participants. You have changing room setups. But you still have the need for those hybrid meetings into different platforms sometimes. So those organizations, it involves a lot more people to manage all of that, because you need cameras in the room to go to a hybrid solution, etc. And that's really where we've seen that those organizations really appreciate the combination of both the Plixus and the uniCOS to simplify these scenarios. Okay, it's a wired solution, but still it's an all-in-one solution. It's very easy because you apply the daisy chaining. So in terms of setup, that's very doable, but you don't need to change camera presets. Or you don't need a camera operator. So if you have constant changing rooms, sometimes you have a person that sits in those meetings to do that camera operation. The fact that this can be automated within the uniCOS application, and then moreover, if you need presentation capabilities, you can also have that video input box or several video input boxes on the same infrastructure. You don't have to change additional cabling. It's all done within the same network. So that really eases to get into cloud-based meeting collaboration platforms. So we've seen a couple of organizations already applying that in flex spaces. And then another application that we recently had is an AV team from a parliament in a country that travels with the prime minister, and obviously they come somewhere, and then maybe 3 hours later there's need to be a meeting, and they have to set up that meeting. They have their own equipment, so they bought kits of 75 of those multimedia stations, for the simple fact that they say, okay, we have everything in one platform. They don't have to put screens all over the room. They don't have to do the cameras. So they have purchased 75 of those, and that's traveling with the Prime Minister to different occasions, different cities throughout the country. So that's another one that we start to see being applied specifically for those reasons that we already explained. Also, it's very compact to store into cases because of the fact that you can tilt the screen completely. So in that case, also very, very handy. Last topic that we want to talk about here is about creating equitable hybrid meetings. What is it exactly? It's collaboration equity, the ability for all the meeting participants to fully participate. And that's regardless of the location, device, language. We have the language portion that can be added, or experience level. It's about making sure that everyone is heard and seen, and make sure that there is engagement and people feel valued about their presentation and participation into the meeting room. So hearing, being heard, that's the microphone loudspeaker portion. The seeing is the screen in the display with the camera. And then this creates more engagement into the meetings. Now, one of the things, moving back to that project that we already mentioned in Switzerland, as I mentioned, we've all been behind our PCs and we are used to head-shoulder shots, and people expect also similar behavior from the meeting room. Obviously, if you have bigger rooms, you have video bars that do AI processing. It's not always working perfectly, and if you have conditions also with screens behind you, etc., etc. And it's also typically for smaller meeting rooms. If you want to bring the participants in the similar experience as a remote participant, so creating that equal presence in the meeting, how do you exactly do that? So that's a question that we get often, and if we explain our capabilities with uniCOS, that's really appreciated there. So what we've done in this project as well, so for the portion about the cameras, they've put the uniCOS devices into the room, and it was decided to have a constant view of 4 camera shots. So we create a 2x2 matrix that goes into the room and also into the video conferencing application. Now, this was not possible in our standard Plexus devices, so we changed a couple of things. So let's have a closer look here. This is how they operated. So in face-to-face meetings, you have that quadrant view of the last 4 persons that are speaking. And then if it's in a video call, the in-room participants are stitched to the bottom side together with the remote participants. How this is done is a whole other, that might be a webinar on itself, but let's focus on how to create those that matrix of 4 devices. So again, we have uniCOS devices on the Plexus network. We have 4 output boxes, and on those 4 output boxes, the HDMI of those you bring into the multi-window processor. And then basically what we do is you create a quadrant view that goes into your Teams, Zoom, WebEx application. So how you integrate it, we've already seen on the Plexus network. And then you can use the SDI, for instance, also to inject that into our conference application to make it available for participants to select that view as well. To establish those quadrant views, we put the system in 4 open microphones, and the microphone mode in, first out. So that means that you always have the last 4 microphones that were open in any given situation. So in this case, if person number 1 speaks, it's added to the quadrant view. Then person number 7, number 3, and then also number 4. So that's the creation of your quadrant view. As soon as number 6 presses his microphone button, the longest one is replaced by the image of number 6. So that's how the quadrant view is built up. Now, this is not standardly possible within the video routing application. This is done through addition of API. So you grab the information or the sensing of the microphone activity. As soon as a microphone gets active, you basically change the video routing through API, either by dynamically changing which microphones are in which input group. So that's one of the capabilities to do that through API, or what we have seen that is a little bit more efficient, is that you create all your input groups or all your uniCOS devices, and then change the routing node from one station to the other, so that this one gets available also on the video output, or the respective video output that goes to the quadrant view. So that's how this is applied. So from that perspective, rather than having always the last person, you end up with a view where you at least see 4 persons. If you look to typical conversations, you have a conversation between several people, they go a little bit back and forth, and then a subject changes and it might be other people. So it's a logical flow of a meeting while still having a view for remote participants on the 4 last persons. So that's giving an elevated experience from that perspective. Obviously, it's sent in to a Teams meeting as one video stream. So you have 4 views there. So if you want to have similar experience or size of the windows in your Teams, you have to spotlight this to bring that room a little bit front center, so that it has an equal representation in the room. So that's a little bit the thing to achieve that. So with spotlighting the room view from the uniCOS devices. Now, during the preparation of this webinar, I've also seen that Zoom Rooms recently has built a multi-camera mode. So I'm not sure if people have experience with that already. So we haven't been able to try it out. But we see there that it's a very interesting application, only available in Zoom. I've looked for Teams and this is not available yet, where you have the capability to have up to 4 individual streams sent into your Zoom application. So again, that same application that we mentioned. So we have the uniCOS devices and then build the routing towards those 4 video output boxes, convert these to USB and bring this into your MTR. Obviously, there are requirements in terms of spec of the appliance. That's all written down in the Zoom knowledge base about multi-camera mode. But you bring effectively 4 video streams into your Zoom application, and they are represented as individual streams. So this is how it's set into the Zoom website. So each Zoom room camera video feed is displayed as a distinct meeting participant in full resolution. The individual camera video feeds are labeled based on the name of the room, and then with the extension -2, -3, -4. So it's really individual feeds. So what does that mean? If we look to the example that we already had, how would it look with that quadrant view that we built? It would look like one window would be divided in 4. So the 4 people in the room would be smaller than the other remote participants. Now, if you apply this Zoom room multi-camera mode, that means that you would end up with a solution where all the meeting participants are equally shown within the meeting, in the hybrid meeting. So rather than having one that is divided by 4, you have individual 4 cameras that are being put into the Zoom meeting. So by applying that same principle, we can achieve a more increased meeting equity into that application. All right. Another example of a project that was done with uniCOS devices, something that we haven't talked about, but also in setups where you have several rows behind each other. Again, to create that meeting experience, if somebody at the front row speaks and you sit behind that person, we also have the capability to for the people that sit behind that person to also see him talking. So body language is a very important part of communication. So again, you have the capability with uniCOS to also provide that link from in-room participants so that they can clearly also see the person speaking. So that's again adding to that equity solution or question. All right. So to conclude here, uniCOS and all the video capabilities are a perfect solution for boardrooms with line of sight issues, especially now also with the upcoming release of the hands-free mode and speaker detection, but also for flexible hybrid meeting spaces where you have your all-in-one design. Mobile travel kits, so we see those more and more popping up as well. And then also have the capability with some extra equipment to also improve the meeting equity from in-room participants to hybrid and vice versa. All right, let's move on to questions. I have my colleague Karel, who had a view on the questions that came in. So,
hi, everybody. Thanks for presentation. So yeah, please, if you have any question, please ask it in the questions tab. So you see in the tabs below the question tab. We already have 2 questions right now. One is about the video ports on the back of the multimedia engine. Now we have SDI and HDMI. Do they have any use, or what is the use of these inputs?
1 second here.
Oh, yeah.
So the question is the SDI on the multimedia engine?
Yes, the SDI and the HDMI connectors that are on the multimedia engine.
Yeah, so the SDI input of the multimedia is being used, while there's no use for the HDMI connections on the multimedia station. So those are only used, so the video routing is only used in conjunction with the video output and input boxes.
Yeah. Indeed. Second question is then, I think also answered later on in the webinar. Is there a function like the vCell box, but through the API, so that we can select the stream that we want to show, but from a third-party control system?
Yes, exactly. So both on the video output box and on the video input box, you have either dry contacts to control, but also is available through API to change routing from there as well. So that's definitely possible on the Confero side of things. Yeah.
Okay.
On the Cookon video routing side of things.
A new question pops in. So how does the built-in camera and mic cater for standing to speak requirements using external cameras? Standing to speak. So I think if you have to stand up for speaking, no, sorry. How does the built-in cam and mic cater for standing to speak requirements using external cameras?
Yeah, so you can still use the uniCOS device without the use of the built-in camera, but only use it for the video distribution, so to see what's going on. But then if you're standing up, you can also complement that with normal pan-tilt zoom camera solutions, either our Confero Cam, our TCAM solution, or a third-party control, and then inject this result of the pan-tilt zoom camera system also into the uniCOS station so that people can see it. So then you can stand up and have the video at the same time. So it depends on the application there.
Okay. I think that's about it for questions right now. So if there's a question, please ask it now.
Perfect. All right. I think we'll 2 minutes over time. So I think this was a good session, right in time. Thank you all for your participation. As said, maybe Karel, switch again to the presentation for a second. On our website, if you go to the support tab and then webinars, that's where you find all webinars that have been already done. So there you will also find the most recent one about smart audio and control. And within the next couple of days, you will see also the video of this webinar popping up there. So if you find it interesting and want to send it to colleagues or to customers of yours, definitely this is your spot to grab that information and send it over. And then also for those people that are interested in more webinars, our next upcoming webinar is May 25th about wireless flexibility, where we will also introduce the Confidia Flex and also our Go version, which is a discussion only solution. So that's May 5th. Definitely make sure to check that out and register for that webinar. And then also one last topic, if you want to stay up to date about webinars, about projects, about product updates, definitely follow us on our social channels, so LinkedIn, Facebook, and also YouTube. You can follow us there. So that's it for me. Thank you for joining. If you would have additional questions, don't hesitate to contact one of your Televic representatives. And then I wish you all a good morning, afternoon, or good evening. Bye, and see you next time. Thank you.